We can get more money if we work hard enough, but we can't get more time. So we want to spend our time on those things that matter most to us, which is, again, easier said than done.
Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Welcome to the show, friend. My new best friend, Mike, is with us today. And I always say this, I'm excited about this, but it really is a unique way of looking at what we're doing. And have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror and go, hey, where are we going? Where should we go? What should we do? Have you ever asked yourself these questions, whether you look in the mirror or not? Who am I? Why did I just get mad? Why did I get angry? How can I just stay peaceful? And these things happen and our lives change. But have you ever sat down and said, I'm going to make a plan to lead myself and I need to know where I'm going and how I'm going to get there and know that it's okay to change along the path? You can change your mind halfway there and go, I don't really want to go for ice cream anymore. I want to go for a hamburger. That is fine. We change directions every day, but it's a conscious decision. And how do we move that forward to be our best self? So Mike's going to help us with that. But before we get started, we're going to get a quick word from our sponsor, and then Mike's going to help us lead ourselves. We'll be right back. Hey, since I rarely have openings in my coaching schedule, I have a new resource out there on my website. It is called the BFF Coaching Network. And I have offered a spot there for any coach that has been on the show to list the coaching. You can go out there, you can listen to their episodes, you can feel a little bit about them, and then choose a coach that will work for you. So LaraJaneLayton.com, the BFF Coaching Network. Okay, Mike, we can do this. The information about you is in the show notes. So help me be a better leader to myself, because sometimes I don't follow very well.
Lara Jane, first, thank you for having me. It's
You're
great to
welcome.
be with you. Yes. And being a better leader of myself, of yourself. Easier said than done, but the effort is so worth it. For me, it's looking in the mirror. And what do I mean by looking in the mirror? I mean stopping, because we are busy people. And I know everyone in your audience is busy. They have multiple things going on in their lives, multiple responsibilities, and many of them are really, really important. But if they're not whole, it's going to be very difficult to lead and serve those people around them. And by the people around us, I mean our families, certainly our friends, those coworkers in the workplace, people in the community, and I can go on and on and on and on. So the time that we invest in learning to lead ourselves well can have a ripple effect. And you asked the question about leading yourself well. What does that look like? Well, it looks like stopping and taking some time to reflect on your life, first of all, throughout a thought such as, let's say we're 100 years old. We're sitting on the porch. We're reflecting over our lives. What do we want to see at that point? Getting that picture in your mind. Hopefully it's a beautiful picture of a life well lived.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go to the point where we are now. Let's start painting that picture today. And painting that picture can often revolve around determining how we define success. Many of us define success based on the 5 Ps: pleasure, prosperity, power, prestige, and position. Is that truly success for me or you? For me, it's not. I think those elements can be important, but if I only focus on those, I'm going to lose sight of things that are even more important. So for me, it's defining success for myself, something that it's very difficult to do consciously. But it's also stepping back and taking a look at some of the conditioning that has occurred in our lives over our lifetime. Many of us were raised in communities and homes, and we saw certain things displayed, and we tended to develop habits based on what we saw, what we're exposed to. And those habits have led us to become this person. In some areas we're strong, and in many areas we're weak. But in many respects, we don't even know that we have these habits that might be detrimental to our success. And those habits can be many things. For me, one was working too much. I almost worked myself to death, which is part of my story. So just taking the time to reflect, for me, pain challenged me to stop and reflect, but we don't all have to get there. So taking the time to get clear on conditioning is another step in the process of leading yourself well. But once you do that, there's some things that we want to talk about that we can do to help us move forward.
You know, I definitely resonated at one time in my life with your 5 Ps. It's like that was the most important thing ever. The more finances and money and that thing that makes you look so important. And who said that's what's important? Who said we have to drive a cool car or look a certain way when I can make my own measuring stick? I can become that person that's content with who I am without that constant drive. And, your story is probably a lot like mine. I didn't stop that drive until I wound up in the hospital. It's push, 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 spread yourself so thin, there's nothing left. How do we put some boundaries or something around that so that when we are leading ourselves, we're leading ourselves out and around some of these things that are dragging us down? We think, oh, if I just work 2 more hours today, I'll get all this off my desk. And when I come back tomorrow, it'll be just so perfect. Have you ever come back to an empty inbox? Come on, it's not going to happen. So 2 more hours tonight didn't help that much. So how do we start giving ourselves permission through that leadership of ourselves to stop, to not have to always look prestigious or functional in someone else's mind?
Yeah. Yeah. In my opinion, it starts with getting clear on what you want in your life. And that helps us when it comes to defining success. Success for someone else might not be success for me. And you alluded to that. So there are a number of ways we can do this, but one of the ways that I like to do this as a life planner. So I'm a certified financial planner, registered life planner, and an executive coach. And as part of the life planning certification process, I learned about 3 questions from a man named George Kinder, who's considered the father of life planning. And the 3 questions are, if you were financially secure today and into the future, you never had to worry about money again, what would you do with your life? Let yourself go, design a life that's richly yours. So that's question 1. Question 2 is, you go to your doctor tells you you only have 5 to 10 years left to live. The good thing is you will never feel sick during those 5 to 10 years. The bad thing is you're going to die. What feeling comes across you when you face your very own real mortality? More importantly, what will you do with the time you have remaining? Question 3 is, this time you go to your doctor, and your doctor tells you you only have 24 hours left to live. The important question here is, 24 hours left to live, what are those things that I will miss doing, being, or seeing? So backing up and realizing that we can get more money if we work hard enough, but we can't get more time. So we want to spend our time on those things that matter most to us, which is, again, easier said than done. So one of the things we can do is certainly define success for ourselves, take a look at conditioning, maybe get feedback from those around us. Our families, number one, how am I showing up? Our coworkers, people at work, our friends, maybe other people that are close to you. And there are processes for doing that. Other than what we experience at work, work has the DISC, the Enneagram, all those things, but there are assessments where you can get a 360 that not only encompasses how you're showing up at work, it can encompass how you're showing up in other areas of life, including family. So taking some of those things will give you some of the feedback that we need initially to start the process of shifting. And shifting involves planning. But I'll share one other thing with you that's quite simple that your listeners can potentially do. Instead of going through an elaborate process of feedback, ask people around you, a diverse group of people, again, from work, maybe home, community, friends, these 3 questions. What are Mike's strengths? or his gifts? What are Mike's weaknesses or soft spots? What else would you like Mike to know that you don't think he knows? And as an individual, asking people those questions and asking them to help me, help you, because you want to grow, you want to be better, you want to love, serve them better. And taking that feedback and just saying yes when they give it to you without trying to disparage or refute any of it. And then taking some time to reflect on that. That'll be very helpful when we get to the planning stage.
That
So
kind of
that is
sounds scary, Mike.
process. Yeah. Yeah.
What is it that somebody else wants from me? And that's like, if I ask, am I obligated to follow their information? Like I try not to ask a question unless I really seriously want the input. And what if I don't
Yeah.
like what they said?
Oftentimes, if we don't like what's said, or if we're doing something and it's hard, it's very, very difficult, or if we fail, we tend to grow. We've got to lean into things that make us uncomfortable. If all that we're getting is information coming back to us that's making us feel good about ourselves, are we really growing? I would ask that question. I know for me personally, the growth that I have experienced occurred when things were not as easy as I would have liked. Even hitting the wall, you talked about it. I call it hitting the wall. That was very painful. It was hard. And it was hard going to people saying, how am I treating you? How am I showing up? And hearing what they had to say to me. But I will tell you, Laura Jane, that's one of the most important, most impactful experiences that I've ever had in my life. So it's led me on this journey of being able to even be here with you and your audience today to talk about this very, very, very important topic. Because we don't have enough leaders in our world. I think we got a leadership crisis right now. And part of the reason we do is we're not working hard on ourselves. Jim Rohn says, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. He said, if you work hard on your job, you earn a living. If you work hard on yourself, you earn a fortune. And that's not necessarily money. In my opinion, that can be joy and peace of mind as well.
Oh, and I love the people around me. If I'm comfortable and confident with who I am, I can have all sorts of people around me and just enjoy their company without feeling judged. But it really is
Yeah.
an internal job to take away that judgment.
Yes. Win the inner game to inspire, influence the world around you. I'm going to be speaking at the local Cincinnati SHRM, Society for Human Resource Management meeting here next week, and I'm going to be talking about that.
Great. The human resource people are amazing within our organizations well, maybe not everybody's, but the ones I've had have all been great. But just really good people to talk to. A lot of people are afraid of them, but they are really there for you. And you can take advantage of that. Not in the negative
Absolutely. Absolutely.
way, but in your career building
Absolutely.
way. That'll be a fun
Absolutely.
speak.
Absolutely.
Are you talking about the same thing?
I am talking about, again, the topic is going to be leaderfluent, secrets of leadership essential to effectively leading yourself and positively influencing others. But our focus is going to be on winning the internal game to inspire the world around you. Because a lot of this is internal. It's internal. And that internal struggle comes from habits that we've developed based on what we've seen, what we've been exposed to in our past lives. There's a quote by Ella Fitzgerald. She says, it's not where you've been, it's where you're going that counts. Where we've been has shaped us, has molded us. We are the people we are because of all we've experienced, some good, some bad. But there's some things that we all need to change. And oftentimes we need help changing those things. That's true in area of life. And it's certainly true being a financial planner. I see it in the area of money. Some of those money scripts that we've developed over the years aren't so helpful to us. And if those things don't change, it can lead to a lot of pain down the road. So taking the time to really assess where we are is a great place to begin. And I'll also add too, everyone has a purpose. Everyone has a mission. Everyone should have a vision for their lives, but most of us don't. In my opinion, that purpose is my why. Why am I here for this short period of time on earth? what's supposed to be accomplished through me. So that why, that vision is a picture of what that looks like. And in my opinion, that mission is the how I live that out. And I was speaking to a big group in the city here, Cincinnati, and I was asked to talk a little bit about this topic. But as part of the talk, one of the things that I asked was, how many of there were about 125 top leaders in the room. How many of your companies have a mission statement? I asked that question. Most hands in the room went up. A couple people shared their corporate mission statements with us. Then I asked the question, how many of you have a personal mission statement for your life? How many hands would you guess went up out of that 125 people, Laura Jane?
2.
Three. It's
Oh,
three.
man.
So you're right. You're right. And I've asked that question many times to large groups, and I get a similar percentage of, yes, I have a mission statement, respondents who say that. So another issue is we don't have mission statements that we rely on to lead us forward. And I did not have one. But I will tell you this, when I developed one, it took a lot of work. It changed my life. So mission is important too. And I'll share my mission statement if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my mission statement is to use my God-given leadership, analytical, and financial skills to help my family and others grow to become all they're designed to be while continuing to grow myself. And when I think about my mission statement, it helps me in those priority areas of life: faith, family, fitness, finances, fun, firm, friends, to be more conscious as I plan and as I live out my life, focused on priorities, because we can get sucked into the work portion of that firm, which is your job or your business, and lose sight of everything else if we're not thinking clearly and if we're not aligned with our mission and planning how we spend our time, which is the coin of life, as Lewis Carroll said.
Okay, so I do have a mission statement, and I'll share mine with you.
Yes, please. Would love it.
My mission is to accept all people through unconditional caring to create natural happiness.
Outstanding. Thank you for sharing that with me, Lauren J. And I see that lived out in you during our short time together here. Right? That's clear who you are.
But, the thing is I've had this for a long time. It didn't fit during my corporate years. Like, I knew that was what my purpose on life was, to be just give people that safe space to exist and to experiment, to be themselves and to not feel locked into being a certain way. It's that accepting you no matter what. It's accepting your significant other no matter what. Oh, crap, they did something that I didn't like. Well, the world doesn't evolve around me. It's not just about ourselves. It's about the relationship and what can I give and what can I receive and still be in balance where we're helping everyone. And I think that really comes into when you know your mission, you know where you're going. And if you don't know where you're going, how can you lead anybody there?
Yeah. Very powerful. Thank you for sharing that with me. Why don't you think more people have a mission statement while they are working, say, in a corporation? Because in my opinion, if people in corporations lived on mission, not just the company's mission, but their own, they could be much more productive. They could accomplish much more. Companies could be much healthier because they'd have happier people who are unleashed. Why do you think it's so difficult for us to live on mission when we're in corporate environments that really require us in many respects to be in a box?
I honestly think it's because there's already a mission for the organization, and that's what we're driving after. But I am not at work 24 hours a day, maybe 10. That gives me 14 other hours that mission is irrelevant. So what am I going to do with it? So maybe, how do I create a mission statement for myself? Because if that's going to be my foundation, it's my decision maker. Is this going to help create happiness?
Mm.
Is this going to make someone feel safe?
Yes.
And it gives me that ability to make decisions based on how I want my life to turn out because I have that measuring stick How do you get it?
Yeah. You just said a word that is a powerful, very, very powerful word. It's decisions. We struggle to make decisions. And part of it is because of what we're talking about here. But how do you create a mission statement? I'll share how I created a mission statement and how I help my clients. One way that I do that is I have them take a sheet of paper. And for those who are listening in, I encourage you to try this exercise. Take a sheet of paper and set up 3 columns. In the first column, write down as the top heading the roles you play in your life. And they could be employee or employer, could be spouse, could be friend, could be a number of things. And then in that next column, for each one of those things, who do you play those roles with? So in that column, you write down who do I play those roles with, right? Then in the last column, you want to write down at the end, what would I like for them to be able to say about me as a person who held those roles and interacted with them and served them in any respects? So you write those things down. And it's not about them. It's about, again, in my life, what do I want to look back and see? So you write those things down. And then you put that paper away and you think about it, but then you come back to it a couple of days later and you review that. What is it saying to you? That gets you started. But by the time you take the time to think about it, come back, reflect on it again, and then you start journaling, over time, what you find is that you tend to come up with something that is mission, purpose, vision oriented. And it doesn't have to be something I like or you like. It's for you. So just going through that exercise, in my opinion, is a great way to begin to build out a mission statement. But the other thing I would share with around mission is once we have that mission statement, another really big step, Laura Jane, is to look at the priority areas of life. And we just talked about those, some of those: faith, family, fitness, finances, fun, firm, which is your job or business, and friends. And then ask yourself, how am I doing in each one of these areas? If I had to rate myself from 1 to 10, where would I be most strong? Which would be 10. And where am I closer to a 1 or somewhere in the middle? But taking the time to write those things down and rate yourself. How am I showing up? And then after you've done that, take a look at those 7 areas and say, okay, if I had to prioritize these, what will be number 1 for me down to number 7 in priority list? And you do that, take a look at how you're doing, and then you ask yourself the question. If I say my family, for example, is number 1, okay, now I'm going to pull out the thing that tells my story, my calendar. Does my calendar reflect that my family's number 1? Or if it's something else, does my calendar reflect that thing or person or category is number 1? If it doesn't, we've got work to do. And that's where planning comes in. There's a lady named Germany Kent. She has a quote that goes, "No plan plus no action lead to no results." So we want to have our mission, but then we want to think about, okay, this is my mission. Now, what do I need to do with this? Not right away. And this can be a lifelong process. I'm still working on some of this stuff. And when I have the chance to talk about it, it reminds me of how much more work I have to do. But every minute I spend investing in this, it returns tremendous benefits to me in my life.
We can focus on the big, huge mountain ahead and all the climbs we have to do, or we can look back and go, wow, we're really up there. We've really made it.
Yep.
Every step, every day gets us closer to something, but we get to choose what that something is.
Yes.
And today I might want to get closer to my family, and tomorrow it might be friends. But overall, am I getting closer to the person that I want to be?
Right. And as we're doing these things, it will tell you that because there's a score that's kept by all of us. We keep our own score and others keep score around us. Ours, certainly the one that really matters, but most of us want to be of service. You shared your mission statement. Your mission statement is all about being of service. If it's all about me, then I'm an empty man. Or if it's all about a woman, we are relational beings. So the things that we do are for us. Absolutely. I agree with you. But without other people in our lives, without relationships, we're empty. And I get the opportunity to engage with people who are empty. I'll give you an example of people who have neglected relationships and service most of their lives to generate wealth, and they have generated tremendous amounts of wealth, but they're empty. Quote unquote success without defining it. And they're empty. So we have to go back to the beginning, and let's go repair some of these relationships.
You say that empty, and it just like takes me back in time. I had family, I had friends, I had work, but I was empty.
Yeah.
Everything focused around just getting it all done. How do you go in and just turn off all those emotions? I call it my robot years, and just stay doing. And you can't, well, I was unable to just do and not have that affect my overall rest of my life was empty.
Yeah.
So how do you find those friends that you want to there was nothing wrong with those friends. How do I find the energy in me to push beyond just work and make those other things in my life count when I'm in the thick of it? Like I had to wake up in the hospital to turn off robot.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, how do I now create a life that's going to help me live, not hold me back? And how do you write that down on paper and go, okay, this is, black and white? Because the second you write it down, a lot of us feel like we're trapped. Okay, that's my goal. That's the only thing I can do forever. No, you can change it tomorrow. If you try it on and it doesn't work, change it. You can change your mission. It doesn't have to stay like mine's been the same for over 20 years, but it doesn't have to be the same one. You can change it.
Yes. One of the challenges that we face is that we have never really been taught how to set goals. Most of us have heard of SMART goals. Set a SMART goal, right? It's in a smart way: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound. So we do that. And oftentimes we are done, right? I've set the goal. So we go about trying to achieve this goal. I like to take it a little bit deeper. I like to say, okay, let's set a SMART goal in an area that's really important to us. It could be anything. It could be anything. So we set this goal, we write it out in a smart way, but we don't stop there. We take some time to ponder, what are the benefits of achieving this goal? Or what are some of the losses to be avoided if I don't? So we think about that. And then we think about, okay, I want to achieve this goal. What can get in the way of me moving forward? And there are a lot of things that can get in the way. So we list those things out. These can get in the way. And it can be, again, a lot of things: saving money. I want to have a certain amount of money. Well, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. But what can get in the way? These things. All right. For each one of those things that can get in the way, let's write a solution for that. For each one of them, we're going to write a solution to those obstacles to me achieving my goal. And then we get into action steps. What steps do I need to take? By when? And most importantly, who is going to hold me accountable? Having an accountability partner in your life, and that's what helped me when I hit the wall. I was a lone ranger. I shared very little with most people. And I found that holding it in and not having support turned me into like this keg that was boiling internally. But once I found someone who was willing to say, okay, I will hold you accountable, I'm on this journey with you, found a couple people, and they were a similar place in life. And that was one of the things that was a catalyst in my shift to becoming whole. As a leader, as a husband, as a father, as a community person at work, it helped me. So having accountability is really, really, really important, in my opinion, when it comes to goals. And then the other thing I would say is go back to the reason why it's important to you. Why is this even important? Why am I even thinking about this goal? Why is it important? Because that can keep you motivated to stay true to it. And most importantly, as we're talking about these things, it can sound like a labor of just grind, and I'm trying to move forward and I don't have time for anything else. As we remind ourselves of our why, we can have fun doing this. This should be fun because there's a purpose for it at the end of the day.
I've lived my last 10 years of life. If this isn't fun, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
It's like, if it's, I don't need to do anything. I got everything I need
Mhm.
and or want. So if it's not fun, that's all that's left. Is it fun? So it's a odd way to look at things, but I'm tired of living in the back seat and just letting my life do. So now I gotta have some fun.
Yes. Which is something I've struggled with in my life. I've been blessed to be able to do things and get exposed to things and all that. So I've had, quote unquote, in my opinion, authentic success, but I haven't celebrated it appropriately. So one of the things I'm working really hard on now is celebrating things that are going well in my life and enjoying the journey. I feel that we all should enjoy the journey. We shouldn't see it as a grind. We should enjoy it. Life is too short to not have fun.
And you're talking about celebrating your wins, and it can be as easy as I got back up.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be this huge, I now have $8 million in the bank. It's, I got back up and I'm still moving. I have energy. I have life. Make what is important. Money's only there for other reasons. What are those other things? Money itself is nothing.
Form of currency. It's virtual, becoming more and more virtual. So it's really, you're absolutely right. Finding those things that give us joy and leaning into those things. And I'll also say, as we're on this journey, and as I think about our conversation today, there's so many people who don't have these things. They're not there. They're like we were. How do we, as we move forward and we celebrate the things that are going well, and we take the time to be grateful, gratitude, thankful, how do we find a way then to serve someone else? And you're doing that, Laura Jane, through this podcast and in other ways. So I applaud you for that, because we need more Laura Janes out there helping people find their purpose and live meaningful lives aligned with things that matter most to them.
Yeah. I really think it's important that we let ourselves shine, you know? We're the only ones that can toot our own horn. You don't have to act better than anybody else, but you have to be proud of what you've done because you are a success. You're here today. You're listening. You're you, and that should be celebrated. How do you celebrate you, Mike?
How do I celebrate me?
Yeah.
Well, first off, I will share that I tend to work hard at being rather than doing. So when I can take the time to be and reflect, I try to start my day with the time of reflection, meditation, prayer, and thinking through the day that's upcoming, and then celebrating what happened yesterday. And that allows me, I use a planning tool that helps me at the end of each day to take a look at my accomplishments. And I take the time to really reflect on that day, those accomplishments, and in my own small way, celebrate what happened today. And they can be very simple. They don't have to be anything grand. One of my accomplishments for this day will be this conversation with you. So I have an opportunity to reflect on the things that I've learned with you today and think about just having the opportunity to have this conversation with you, which I consider a blessing. And for me, it doesn't sound grand, but it's something that's going to be a wonderful thing for me. So I just taking the time to pause and reflect and to be grateful is something that helps me because it gives me inspiration for the next day.
As much as I do my best to allow everybody to be themselves, I still try to mold me. And, it's like, okay, quit acting like that. But when I can go, okay, who am I? Is this molding me into a better one of those? Or is it now changing the shape? And I'm now off kilter from what I really want to be.
Yeah.
Because we're so ingrained to people please. We're so ingrained to be polite. We set up boundaries, but we don't dare enforce them because that might not be nice. And so we have all these expectations that were taught to us growing up. And yeah, I'm going to use this example, but it might not be the right one. I took a class called uh, active shooter awareness, whatever.
Mhm.
And in the class, the instructors said more people die because they're trying to be polite and nice than they don't fight. They don't put up the effort to take care of themselves. So take that out of the active shooter scenario. You're going to be less happy if you're not trying to be the best you. If you're always trying to, oh, I'm with George, so I got to act like this because that's what George likes. I'm with Henry, I got to act like this because that's what Henry likes.
Mhm.
What does Lara Jane like? What does Mike like? That's who we have to please. And our friend, they need to please themselves too.
Well, conditioning helps, again, those attitudes that we have are formed by our conditioning. Again, what we were exposed to, what you just alluded to. And I have come to think of attitude as something that drives my behavior, and my behavior determines my results. So if I've got a positive attitude, if I believe I deserve whatever, if I'm moving forward in a great way, if I am passive as opposed to being a little more assertive, well, my behavior is going to reflect that because it starts in my mind and my heart. My behavior is going to reflect that. And then my results will as well. So you get in this triangle, I like to call it, attitude at the top, behavior at one corner, results at the other. And we can get stuck. If it's positive, nice flow, we're moving forward. If it's negative, it can be the same. It's going to drive my behavior and it will drive my results. If I'm not confident, same thing. So thinking about how we show up, what's going on in our heads. And some of these things can often drive us to hire a coach or someone who can help us, another party, or maybe I've got mental health challenges, but finding someone who can help me move through these things so that I can do what you just described, Laura J. I think it's so important. So important.
And I think it all starts with making that plan, where is it that I want to go? And the way you described it is like, oh, I'm managing my life like a project, what is my issues that might show up? What are the mitigation plans that I can put in place to make
Yeah.
sure that I make my goal?
Yeah. Yeah. I find that very few of us plan well with anything. So we're not planners. We are a very busy society. Most of us are just stressed because we got so much to do. And we don't feel we can take the time to really plan or reflect or have gratitude at the end of the day or be thankful because that next thing's on the deck waiting for me to take care of it. Well, sometimes that next thing should wait. And most oftentimes it can wait. Or I'll share something I find as an executive coach. I find that most leaders, they don't do a great job of delegating and empowering others. They're doing everything. They're working themselves to death while their people are bored or they've quit and they've stayed on the payroll. And oftentimes I find I have to help them understand that they don't need to be everywhere and all things to all people. They can trust other people. And when they get that, they are happier, the people are happier, and the results are much, much better. So there are times when we can leverage by having other people do things that we really probably shouldn't be doing. That can be at work. It can even be at home. Hiring someone to do something that allowed me to do something else might allow me to have a greater return, not only on my time and money, but also my mental health. For me, is thinking of time, which we haven't talked a lot about. How do I invest my time rather than spending it? Again, we can get more money, we can't get more time. So how do I learn to invest my time, see it as a very precious resource rather than spending it? And that's something we should need to be taught about. Time and money are two things that we are not taught about. And I think our schools have a tremendous opportunity to help future generations here.
Yeah, it's hard enough to learn how to read an analog watch. Come on.
uh,
You know, it really is, boils all down to what is going to make you happy.
yeah.
And sometimes we don't know. I really think ice cream would make me happy. You go get the ice cream, you eat it, and you go, oh, maybe I'm lactose intolerant and my tummy hurts. Guess what? You experienced, you learned, you had you didn't go without, but now you know, oh, when I eat ice cream, my stomach hurts. Maybe next time I'll want something else. And we get to choose over and over. We get to experiment and learn. We're not here just to do this easy road. It's going to be tough because every time we grow, we now have a new mountain to climb. We now got to the top of another mountain. You go, oh, I thought I made it, but look, there's 10 more peaks back here. So you just keep going, but remember to reflect on where you've been.
Yeah. I've got a dear friend. His name's Jonathan Sams. He's just a wonderful friend. He 4-time cancer survivor, and he's done tremendous things in his life. But he was on a podcast a couple years ago. It's called I Have Gratitude Because of My Struggles. And when you're with him, you're really with him because he's a focused man. He understands all that we're talking about here. And he and I have been friends for almost 28 years. And I've just learned a lot by being with him. We learn a lot from each other. We have so much to be thankful for. Because if we think we're struggling, if we look across the room, there's someone that might be struggling twice as much as we are. Taking the time to be thankful for what we have and who we are. And then thinking about how can I continue to grow day by day and have joy as I'm doing it. And how can I serve someone else as I'm doing it? Because I find that joy comes from service.
For a lot of us, it does, but maybe someone doesn't. Then that's okay for them. But I
Okay.
like to serve.
Absolutely. It's okay for them. Well, I was share as a leader in corporations. I found that I had the most fun as a leader when I was serving the people that reported to me. I had the power, but I didn't have to use it. Got a lot done because people wanted to work with and for me. Because it wasn't just all about me. And that allowed me then to be more of a visionary and think long term and lead the unit I was responsible for, the division, forward. But I've seen other people, it is all about them. Everything's about them. No one else matters. And I've seen the results of that type of leadership and behavior. It's an empty thing. But if someone wants to choose that, you're right. We have the power to choose. And we have the power to make decisions. But my hope is that we'll make decisions in a way that helps our world be better, not just for us, but for generations to come. And it's also often helpful, I've found, Laura Jane, to use a telescope more often than a microscope.
Explain how that would be. I mean, looking at the little details or looking at I know the technical differences between the two, but how does that change the way you look at things?
I'll give you an example from a financial standpoint. If you're investing money for the long term and you keep looking at it and messing with it each day, you're not going to have anything in the long term. So let's put it away and let's think about consistently over time, the right asset allocation, the percentage of stocks, bonds, that sort of thing. And let's let the time value of money do its thing. which has been proven. We can't predict the future, but it's proven. So if I'm consistent, this is my goal at this point in time, and I let the money work in the system, financial system, over time, I'm going to be glad I did. But very few people are able to delay that gratification. They want it now. So I often encourage clients use a telescope more often than a microscope. Let's certainly look down and we want to see, make sure things are good, but let's not make that the priority. Let's make the long-term game the priority and let's live our lives. And that can be true with anything. If I said that I wanted to be a better golfer and I'm terrible today, well, I've got to have a long-term vision of what it looks like to be a great golfer. And I've got to start making small steps every day with a vision of being this golfer. But I'll have more fun because I'll give myself grace as I'm just tearing up the course in not a good way over time, expecting to be better. But in our society, again, we don't have vision because we're looking down too much at what's in front of us. That's even true with relationships with family and others.
You know, it is very important to look at the end goal, but also look at what's right in front of you. It's a process. It's a plan.
Yeah.
And if we can, with all the mitigation planning and everything, it may have to change one day. And just knowing that that's okay. I've been a different person for a long time with the same missions. You can make it fit if it is your soul that you are talking to or about. It will fit anything you do.
Your soul. Yes. Again, it's who we become that matters most, right? Just taking those steps, having joy in our lives, celebrating the small wins, moving forward. And it's different for all of us. But taking the time to determine what we want, in my opinion, is the place to start. And having a plan provides freedom. It gives you freedom.
Yes.
It provides freedom.
It almost sounds restricting, but it is freedom. Because you don't have to worry about it now.
Yes. Yes. It gives you freedom. And it's not one of those things you've got to stick to at all costs. But at least, I've heard of people who've written goals down and they put them away. They didn't look at them again for 5 years. And the things that they wrote down, they'd accomplished a lot of them because they took the time to think about them and write them down. So
It can work.
It can work. It can work. It does work. And I would encourage those listening, not sure where you might be in your life, but give it a try. Maybe take one idea and make a commitment to give it a try. And that can be something as simple as thinking about success. How do you define success for yourself? And is that truly the definition that's right for you at this point in your life?
And it all boils down to being okay with being a beginner.
Yeah.
We might be in our older half of our life, but I can still begin something new and give yourself the freedom or the permission to be a beginner, to look awkward, to not be able to do it and stumble through things. It'll be fun. And you just need to look at it as I'm being me. And that is the beautiful part of life. Mike, I love talking with you. We've talked about leading ourselves. We've talked about mission statements, how to make decisions, how to figure out your priorities and all these different things. But who is Mike? And why does he care about these things? Can you share with our listeners a little bit about you and how can they get a hold of you if they so want to?
Yes, happy to. Yes, so Mike Kelly, I am a person who's been married for almost 30 years now, a long time, from South Carolina originally, live in Cincinnati now. But my career has been with big companies. I worked for Michelin, French-owned tire company, for a number of years, and then Macy's for a number of years as a vice president. I have experience in marketing, sales, finance, HR, and I've done some international project management work. But I left Macy's to serve people, to serve my community in a larger way through a couple businesses. One is Right Path Enterprises. And through Right Path, like Take the Right Path Enterprises, my wife and I partner in that. We do executive coaching. We do some leadership development training. And I do some life planning in that as well. And also a lot of speaking. I do a lot of speaking. And I've written a book called Leaderfluence that I mentioned earlier that can be found on Amazon or on the Right Path Enterprises website. And I say for anyone who purchases it from the website, I can sign it for them. But I also realized during my journey that people were struggling with money. I found myself coaching people in corporations who made good money, but they were struggling with the money. So I ended up coaching people just as one of those things I did. So I ended up, when I left Macy's, and I decided to start a financial planning firm as well, Kelly Financial Planning. So I do hourly fee only financial planning and advice. I don't sell product. I don't receive commissions from brokerage houses and mutual fund companies. I charge my clients an hourly rate for my services so I can be objective and do what's right for people. And as part of that process, we get clear on their goals and we build life plans and then financial plans to support those life plans. So I do that as well. And I can be found on most of the platforms. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, as I can be found there. And you can go to my website, Kelly Financial Planning, for example, if you want to set up a time for a call. We can certainly have a quick call just to hear more of your story, learn about what's happening with you. And I can always share a little bit about what I do and how I can best be helpful. But I am a person who is really all about helping people find freedom, being free myself, but helping others find freedom because many of us are in bondage.
Yes. So, Mike, what is that one thing we should try this week to see if it helps us be a better leader to ourselves?
I would say, so there are a number of things that I could say. If you've listened to this conversation, my hope is that you found one. But one of the things that I would say is do the exercise that I mentioned. Think of yourself as if you're 100 years old, 100 years old today. You're sitting on a porch somewhere, you're reflecting on your life. What do you see? What would you want to see? Get that picture in your mind. And then maybe take some of the ideas that we've shared and begin painting that picture today. You don't have to do it alone. There are many people out there who'd be willing to come along beside you and help you.
That's the beautiful part. You do not have to do this alone. Oh, yes, I love it. Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate your time, the information, everything that you just rattled off is in the show notes so the listener can just jump down there if they didn't have a pen and they will find it. So, friend, Mike and I are not medical or mental licensed professionals. We're here for entertainment. People that have found a path that works for us and would love for you to travel the best path possible to your goals. So thank you for joining and stay tuned for the next episode.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Lara Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss a next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.